welcome to Tuesday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where today we're going to be taking a look at a brand new puzzle by the constructor Knickolas, a constructor I hold in just the highest esteem. I think I've done at least two puzzles by Knickolas on the channel before. Both of them have been utterly extraordinary. One of them I think we did a setter video for, if I remember rightly. Now this one though, those other two puzzles were really hard. This one is meant to be somewhat easier, and the tester who's tested this wrote to me and said, we simply have to call the video for this puzzle "That's G in the corner," because there is a G in the corner, and I really like that idea. The puzzle's called Babbling Brook, and I'll read the rules in a moment. It's a funny take on region sum lines and a yin-yang hybrid, so it's quite an interesting rule set. But some of the comments on Logic Master Germany, and indeed from our testers, suggest that we're in for an absolute treat today, as indeed was the world of Sudoku yesterday, when we got to experience and solve this puzzle, Circular Reasoning by Marty Sears. And some of the comments on this puzzle, there are many comments basically saying this is their favourite puzzle they've ever done. So please have a go at this one. Marty is, well, on a very hot streak at the moment, and that one is it is a beautiful puzzle. So if you want to give yourself another puzzling treat, check out yesterday's video and you'll find a link to that puzzle there. Now, what else did I want to talk to you about? I was going to share a story with you, actually. One of our viewers, Neil Harrington, wrote in with their Patreon answer to say they'd been on holiday with their wife in Bermuda, and they were in St George's, sat at a bar about to order dinner, and a British couple came and sat down next to them, and they exchanged holiday chit-chat, as you do, and they overheard the British couple sort of saying, "Oh, I can't wait to get home to try that new puzzle pack." And they realised that they both watched Cracking the Cryptic, and then they were able to talk to each other about Sudoku. And I just like the way that Sudoku is going everywhere. Anyway, Neil apparently and his wife had such a good time and had so many rum cocktails that they can't remember the names of the British couple that they met. So if said British couple is watching and wants to drop us an email, I can put you in touch, I'm sure. But yeah, it just amused me. Actually, a less amusing story, which I will share with you, because I sort of think that these things are important. Obviously, we do the puzzles and we get great joy from them, but for some people, the puzzles are a source of solace, escapism, a distraction. And we had an email from one viewer yesterday whose father, unfortunately, has been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and as you can imagine, that has caused the most devastating situation in the family, and the viewer, who will remain anonymous obviously, just wanted to let us know how these videos keep them sane. They provide that moment or few moments every day when the real world doesn't have to encroach into everything. So well, I want to say thank you. I've already written a thank you email to this viewer, and I want to say thank you, and obviously Mark and I wish you and your family all the very best, and thank you for taking the time to write to us, and let us know that we make a small difference to some people. It does mean a lot. Now, next thing I want to do is birthdays. I think I've only got one birthday to do today. Melissa, it's your birthday. No, it's not. Well, it is. I think it's your birthday tomorrow. But apparently, because of your time zone, you normally see videos sort of one day after they are actually released in terms of my time zone. So I think I can say happy birthday confidently, and it will be the correct day for you. And I'm obviously saying happy birthday because your boyfriend Alton wrote to us and said you'd appreciate a shout out. Although I think that you do use the videos to go to sleep too. So I'm not sure. Maybe you'll be asleep by the time I read this message. But I hope it's been a good birthday, and I hope you had chocolate cake, obviously. Any other news? No, just a reminder. Patreon, actually, we're getting through the month, aren't we? It's the 12th of September already. So there's a chance to win some new merch over on Patreon if you can solve our new Sudoku hunt. Yeah, it's we're getting lots of entries. Let's just leave it like that. Do have a look at it. Oh, and actually the other thing I will recommend to you, because I've only just got a chance to watch it, is Mark has got a video on Patreon in which he talks through the solve of a recent extraordinary listener crossword puzzle. It's a 25-minute video, very interesting, and yeah, it was up my street. Anyway, let's have a look at Babbling Brook. Babbling Brook, did I say Babbling Book? It sounded like Babbling Book to my ears, but maybe my lips got it right. Babbling Brook by Knickolas. These are the rules. Normal Sudoku rules apply. Shade the grid using 2 colours, such that all instances of each colour are orthogonally connected, and no 2x2 area is completely one colour. So this is so-called yin-yang rules, and that means that we can... this is, I think, the standard way I try and show a possible shading that would conform with those rules I've just read out. So something like that. Now you can see I have coloured the grid in 2 colours. Each colour forms an orthogonally connected unit, if you like. If you can tell that because if you double click on the colour, there's no, we don't see a green cell there. Orthogonally connected means sharing an edge. So these are not now orthogonally connected because this little naughty green one only touches other green ones at a point. It doesn't share an edge. And you can also see, I think, that I haven't included any 2x2 area that's entirely one colour. So this is a possible shading of the puzzle. That is how the yin-yang rules work. Now, blue lines, which are normally region sun lines, but here they have a different way of working. Blue lines must have an equal sum n within each colour they pass through. If a blue line passes through a colour multiple times, each individual pass sums to n, and n can be different for different lines. All lines must cross colours at least once, and cells separated by an x contain digits summing to 10. So there's one x in the grid, those 2 digits sum to 10. But let's just see if we can understand how this might work. I don't know which line to look at. Let's look at this one. So we obviously have to achieve some shading. Let's shade there and there. Now I think what this is saying, and forgive me if I get this wrong, it will be a slow start to the puzzle if so. I think what it's saying is imagine that the colouring of the grid provided this shading of this blue line. Then we would know that the sum of those 2 digits was equal to the sum of those 2 digits. In fact, let's change that a bit. Let's do that as well. That could be a legitimate shading. So now we'd be saying that the sum of this digit, so let's say that's an 8, those 2 digits would add up to 8, and these 2 digits would add up to 8. That's very, very unusual. And already very interesting. Anyway, those are the rules. Do have a go. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. Have I got the right glasses on? I do. Now I get to play. Let's get cracking. Now I'm going to start by sharing with you the secret I know about yin-yang and the implications of said secret, because that's almost always the way you start yin-yang puzzles. So the secret is that what you cannot have in a yin-yang puzzle is a checkerboard arrangement within a 2x2. And the reason is this requirement that we have to have a single orthogonally connected unit of each colour. So imagine that we did try and create a checkerboard. How would we connect this green to this green? Because we will have to do that. And the point is that however you make that connection work, whatever circuitous route we do it with, this yellow now cannot connect orthogonally to this yellow because it's been isolated. And you can see that even if we'd made the connection between the greens the other way, all we'd have done then is we'd have corralled the top yellow into a basket from which it couldn't escape. So you can't have a checkerboard in a yin-yang puzzle. Now that leads to an implication about the perimeter in yin-yang puzzles. Because basically if we shade the perimeter one colour, that would be a legitimate shading. That's possible. You could have two colours. We could introduce a second colour. But what you cannot now do is introduce another change of colour along the perimeter. There can only be basically the maximum number of strings of colour you can have in a yin-yang perimeter is 2. If you introduce this here, you're faced with the challenge of connecting yellow to yellow, and again you can see that however you do that, you're going to isolate green. And you can think of that the other way if you'd like to. You can think about having the challenge of connecting green to green, which you'd have to do, and then you'll just isolate yellow instead. So we can't do those things, and therefore what we know about this perimeter is that it has very limited changes of colour in it. Now, all I'm seeing that doing is overlapping with G. We do know because of the secret that G sums to 45. But I don't think that we know. I was thinking about that. I think it's probably likely that G is 15. Sorry, G is 15. N is 15 for G. N is 15 for G. What on earth have I started talking about? Okay, let me just explain what I'm doing there. So, it's interesting actually. The point I was thinking about was that the total shape of G occupies box 7. Now, because of a secret that I share with only my very favourite people, but of course I'm going to share it with you, because of a secret, I know what G adds up to now in total. Because I know what the sum of any complete row, any complete column, or any complete box of a Sudoku is because of the rules of Sudoku, which requires the digits 1 to 9 to be put into a box once each. So I know that the sum of all those digits is the sum of the digits 1 to 9, which is 45. Now, I also know, therefore, that n, right, because I know that there's got to be at least, this G has to be divided into different colours. That's one of the rules. All lines must cross colours at least once. So I can't just have a 45 value of n for this line. So that means I need a divider of 45. Well, there aren't that many things that divide 45. You can divide it by 3, and then I could have strings of n that add up to 15 in here. Or I could divide it by 5, and that would be strings of n that add up to 9. Or I can't divide it by 9. That's the next divider, isn't it? After 5, 6, 7, 8, yeah, we get 9. Now, you could divide 45 by 9, but that would imply there were 9 different shadings in there. That would, I think, imply a checkerboard, wouldn't it? I'd have to do this. That would be dividing G into 9 different ends. There's nine changes of colour along G, but that would require it would require many things which are not true. It would firstly require that each value here was a 5, and I can't put 9 5s into box 7. It also would require somehow that yellow to orthogonally connect with this yellow, and that can't happen either. So for many reasons, that's total bobbins. Okay, so we do know for this line, the value of n is either 15, which is what it's going to be, or it's going to be 9. 9 doesn't feel possible because you've got to divide G into 5 different changes of colour, and that feels like it's not going to work in terms of orthogonal connections. But I'm just having difficulty. I'm having difficulty visualising how I'm meant to do this. Maybe if we start with that square. Ah, that's weird. Okay, I can disprove the one I thought it was. I think I can anyway. Right, let go with me or bear with me on this. And this might be wrong, but if n was 15 for this line, then there are 3 sections of colour along this G. So let's make this one colour. Now, if n is 15, I can't write 15 into this square. So this section of colour has to extend to at least here. It depends how long. In fact, it can't be more than 3, because if it was more than 3, that would be a 2 by 2 of green. So it's either going to be a 2 section adding up to 15 or a 3 section adding up to 15, but I don't think it matters which, because the point is, because there's 3 sections of colour, somewhere here there'll be a yellow section, and then we'll turn back green again to complete the next bit of the line. But that means this is also green. And it's part of a sequence that adds up to 15. So that is also green, because again, I can't write 15 in there. So if I do try and make n equal to 15, I always get a 2 by 2 there, I think. That feels right, doesn't it? Well, it feels right, but it feels counterintuitive, because then, if n is not 15, we said n has to be equal to 9. And there have to be 5 different changes of colour. But that's the same... Oh, no. Oh, right. So, okay. All right, so what I'm visualising is what numbers are we going to put in each string along this G. To make our 9 totals. And you can see that one of the totals is going to have to just be the number 9, because obviously we know n is equal to 9, so wherever I put the 9 in that box, it is done. So it's going to have a change of colour on both sides of it, unless it's a line end. But the other 4 sequences are going to be 2-cell sequences that add up to 9. So they're going to be 1, 8, 2, 7, 3, 6 and 4, 5 in some order. So what I'm thinking there is, because I've got an odd number, it's a bit like with when n was 15 and we had 3 different colours. Here I've got 5 different colours, or 5 different sections of colours. So if I had a 2 section there, if that was green, say that was 1, 8, but that was 2, 7, again I've got a 2 by 2. So what that's telling me is that the 9 has to be in one of those squares. Well, yeah, and it can't be in the second position, can it? Because if the 9 was in the second position, that would also have to be a 9. So 9 is in one of those 2 positions. Now, I'm just going to visualize. I can't, when I say I'm just going to visualize it, I'm just going to put it in so I can see what it looks like. So if this was 9, then it would go 2, 2, 2, 2. That's amazing, isn't it? That's so weird, because that actually works. In the sense that both yellows can get out. This yellow can get out here, so it's still got the opportunity to connect to the yellow there. In fact, the whole perimeter there is going to be yellow. Because remember, we can only have 2 sections of colour along the perimeter. This is absolutely ridiculously clever. That you could just put a G in the corner of a yin-yang puzzle and it does this is weird. But this isn't the only arrangement. Well, maybe it is. But let's check whether if we make this the 9, what's that going to look like? So let's quickly get rid of this. Now, if this is the 9, then that's going to be yellow, that's going to be green, that's going to be yellow, and that's going to be green. Right, so I've got a different Z pentomino. That's absolutely bizarre. So what whatever the disposition is of colours within box 7, well, the interesting thing here is, look, those two are always the same colour, and they're always interrupted by a different colour along that sequence. And let me just show you, if I just unwind, surely we'll just be able to see the old one. So the old one was like that, and the new one, yeah, it's sort of a rotation and a reflection, isn't it? But either way, these two are the same colour, and those three are the same colour. So we don't know how this is disposed, because we can't, well, I don't think we do. Those are ambiguous. These are always the same and interrupted by a different colour here. So using the yin-yang property, we can shade the whole of the perimeter yellow. One of these is a 9. Right, okay, let's just do some simple pick-offs then. That can't be a 2 by 2. That can't be a 2 by 2. That can't be a 2 by 2. So look at this now. So now that cell is the sum of those two. We've suddenly learnt. Oh, well, okay, I can do that one. I can do that one because imagine that was yellow. If that's yellow, then say that was a 5, that would be saying that was a 5 and that was a 5, because each change of colour has to add to the same number. So that's got to be green, and therefore we know that digit is the sum of those two digits. Here it's going to be the same. I can't make that yellow, that's got to be green. Okay. Now what do we do? Let's think. It's probably something to do with not being able. Because I can see that I can't have too many consecutive bits of yellow along there or yellow along here. Because if any domino was yellow along this line, it would create a 2 by 2 of yellow, and that's going to break the rules. So I've got to have some considerable amount of green along there. But I suppose I've got to have a change of colour. I can't make the whole line green. Yes, okay, I can do this then, I think, because yeah, that is. I mean, this is beautiful. Again, it's such an elegant idea once you have this rule set, because what you can't have along here now is two single cell colours. So what we couldn't do is, for example, I mean, actually, it's even hard to show an example. But imagine both of those were yellow and that was green. That you can see deals with the problem of having 2 by 2s of yellows here. But it doesn't deal with the problem that that cell and that cell should contain the same digit. So what we've got to be able to do here is we've got to have at least one yellow along this line. And so let's experiment. I mean, I can see that yellow is going to have to go here, but let me show you why. If we put the yellow there, you can now see this has to be green. And these can't be the same number, so this has to be green. And now we can't put double yellow here, can we? And we can't put single yellow in either of these. So we have to put double green. But now we have a problem with numbers, because 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, which is the minimum I could put in green, adds up to 10, and I can't write 10 into this square. So you can't have a single yellow cell adding to 4 green numbers in the same stretch. So our single yellow cell, which can't be here because if that's green, then these two are the same. If it's here, then it can work. If it's here, the line is symmetrical, so all of the logic we've done at the top works at the bottom. So we've proved, basically, that is the only place that you can put the single yellow cell that you can put along this string here, you obviously can't ever have a domino of yellow anywhere, or even a triomino, or a tetromino of yellow, or even a pentomino, because that's going to create 2x2s. So the only place you can put the single yellow is here. And now you must have double greens on both sides, because if you don't have double green, the single green will add up to yellow. I do wonder if somebody listened to just snippets of these videos, would they think that I'd gone mad? Now, I've got to avoid that being a 2x2 of green, so that turns yellow, and avoid a checkerboard, so that turns yellow. I've got to avoid a 2x2 of green, so that turns yellow. This green tetromino has to connect to all its friends, so that's got to be green. There's probably we can think about what that is. Yes, that can't be green, because if that was green, let's imagine that was a 2, then that would be saying that's a 2, and that's a 2 if this is green, so that's got to be yellow, which means that's got to be green to avoid a 2x2. This is just fantastic. That's got to be green to avoid a 2x2. We've got a 4 in the top of the grid now, so we've got a G4. We've got G here and 4 here. Although the 4 is going to have more greens attached to it here, because otherwise it's going to, if those are both yellow, the 4 will literally be isolated. What's also somewhat bizarre about this is that even if we do all the shading, somehow or other, this division of colour is going to have to lead to actual logic that gives numbers. And even here, which seems to be a very, we know a lot about that line, don't we? We know that is equal to some of those and some of those. And because these have to be different numbers, and the minimum they could be would be adding up to 10. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So we know this is at least a 5. But it's much, if that was a 9, there would be loads of different ways of making these dominoes work. Okay. Can I do the same trick I did here with this long line on this line, which obviously now we can't have a domino of yellow anywhere here. So if we had, if any one of these, well, if either of these, how could that cannot be yellow, can it? That is clear. That cannot be yellow, because then this needs to be green. And we can't extend yellow here, so these would have the same total. Right, so that's green. But that doesn't stop that being yellow, because that could be yellow, and then that could be green, and that deals with problems, doesn't it? But if that's green, in the example we did earlier, I think all of those were the same colour, and I don't see why that's impossible here. That's weird. So all I get is that is green. Right, okay. So maybe the point is that the centre of that line has to be green. Is the same thing true there? Yes. Again, it's the same logic. The centre of this line must be green, because if it was yellow, it couldn't grow on either side, and all three numbers would be the same, so that is green. Does that work here? Can you prove that has to be green? Let me think about that. If that's yellow, that's green. But this is a bit different, this line, because this line extends. Yeah, but that doesn't work, clearly. No, it's the same point. It's exactly the same point. If this was yellow, this can't be yellow, so it has to be green. But this is single green, so those would have the same total, so that has to be green. And now this has to be yellow to avoid a 2x2. That has to be yellow to avoid a checkerboard. The green hasn't got out, so that's got to get out. Oh, my goodness me. Right, okay, and now we're getting into the realms of proper beauty again, because that square is not yellow for an absolutely gorgeous reason. Right, and let's think about why I don't think this is yellow. we can see the nature of this line then. Whatever n is, let's say n was 8 for this line, those two would both be the same number. So by sudoku, that's 8 goes in there. And now the only way that would work is if you put 00 on this line along with 8. I should have done 7 because I could have had 007, but I didn't. Anyway, there we go. That doesn't work. So by sudoku, we can sort of infer that that has to be green. And now if that's green, those two are both yellow. And this area at the top still hasn't got out, so that's green. That's green to avoid a 2 by 2. That's green to avoid a 2 by 2. Ooh, okay, this line has to have 2 colours on it. No, that's okay, actually. I was worried then because I was thinking, obviously you can't have 4 different digits adding up to yellow, which we worked out over there, but we don't need it here because that digit, in fact, that digit is the same as that digit we've now learnt, because there must be a repeated digit in that sequence. Otherwise, this would be at least a 10. Well, and these can't have a repeat because they're all in the same box. So this must repeat and it can't repeat there. So those 2 digits are the same. Those 2 digits there, and and this one is low because if it was 4, double 4 plus 1 plus 2 is 11, and that's too high to go into this square. But 3 would work. Double 3 with 1, 2 would give a 9 here, and that would resolve the way that this thing works at the bottom. So that square is 1, 2, or 3. That square is 1, 2, or 3. This square is at least a 7. I think we looked at a logic like this yesterday, didn't we? There must be a 1 in these squares. Because again, if this was 2, 3, 4, plus 1 is 10, and that's too big to go in here. And actually, look, that's yellow to avoid a 2 by 2. And once that's yellow, that's a checkerboard if it's not yellow, so that's yellow. Green still hasn't got out, so green has to grow again. Wow. Okay. And therefore, we've only really not. Can I do anything with that line? That line's all in the same box. So the ends of the line are different colours, I'm going to claim. That's what I'm going to claim there. That must be true, mustn't it? Because if these were the same colour, that would be a different colour, and all 3 numbers on the line would be the same. So these are different colours. And I don't know which way round I think that's likely to go. Oh dear. Okay, we might be about to come to a juddering halt, I'm afraid. Let's try and think about how, is it something meta about how we connect the greens? Don't think so. Or I don't know. I think there's probably some cleverness I can do with this line. If that's yellow, that's green. But I still don't think I know what that one is. If that's yellow, that would be green. Wow, I don't know. You know the logic I've just done here? That logic works here. Because that's 4 greens in a row, adding up to this number. So that digit, let's call that B, although B could be the same as A maybe, but B has to go in one of those. And then B can't go here because obviously that won't work mathematically. You can't have 2B plus other numbers equals B. So this digit is a 1, 2 or a 3. B could be the same as A, which is slightly disconcerting. There must be a 1 on this string, and that digit is 7, 8 or 9. It's it's exactly the same logic as this line. Okay. That's got to be green. Oh, this is huge. That's got to be green, because I've got to avoid a 2 by 2 there. So now my 9 must be right in the middle. I've got a digit. I've got a digit after 35 minutes. That's got to be green in the middle. So that's the end of that sequence. So that's a domino. This is a domino of green. That's a domino of yellow. That's not 9. This is green to avoid a 2 by 2 of yellow. That's yellow, green to avoid a checkerboard. That's yellow to avoid a 2 by 2. This is yellow to avoid that line all being one colour. That's yellow to avoid a checkerboard. That's green to avoid a 2. That's yellow. This is amazing. This green has not got out, so it's got to go both of those out to get out. This green hasn't connected to its friend, so that's got to be green. And we worked out that this line had different endings, so that's yellow. And please let that be green. Yeah, that's okay, isn't it? I need to connect this green up, so that's got to be green, but that looks perfectly possible. All we're saying there is that that adds up to those two. So we've actually achieved the colouring of the grid. Oh, this is going to be good now. Right, that's not 9. So that means that can't be 3, so that can't be 3. There's now got to be a 2 on this sequence, because if there wasn't, this would add up to 1, 3, 4 minimum, which is 8, plus that digit would make us have to put 9 in here. So there is an A in one of these. How on earth is this going to solve uniquely from here? That is weird. I mean, because now these little 3-cell lines, which were so beautiful for the shading, are totally and utterly useless. I mean, knowing that's the sum of that, it just is not. I can't do anything. I mean, that could be a 1-2 pair. That could be at least that could be a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8. The only thing it can't be is 9. Sorry, I'm not really seeing this at the moment. Ah, okay, so it's here, isn't it, then? Oh, this is right, this is lovely. That's a 9. See if you can see why that's a 9. Actually, it's because it's quite a... I've seen tricks a bit like this before in other puzzles, but it's really lovely the way it works here. So for those of you who managed to do it, congratulations. The reason this is a 9 is because if you consider this string of digits together, it's interesting. Because that string of digits, those 5 digits there, are all different digits, clearly. They're all in the same row of the Sudoku. And these 2 digits we could express mathematically as equal to the sum of those 5 digits plus this digit. Now the triangular number for 5 is 15, so the minimum these could be would be 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and the minimum this could be is 1. So the minimum that those 6 digits can add up to is 16, which means the minimum these digits can add up to is 16. And what do we know about a sum of two Sudoku digits that's 16 or higher? Well, it must include a 9. So this digit has to be the 9 because that little 9 there sees that square. Isn't that gorgeous? So this digit is 7 or 8. Now this digit can't be 3 again, because if it was 3, then 15 plus 3 is 18. Now that would require this to be a 9. So A and B are looking disturbingly like they're going to be the same number. There must be 1, 2, 3 and 4 on this sequence, and either 5 or 6. Okay, so where's 9 in this row? Oh, this is good. That's going to give me a... Oh, this is it. That's it. It's done. It's done. Sudoku comes to our rescue. Because where's 9 in... we can't put 9 on this line. This 5, I know it doesn't look like a line, these 2 line segments, because they need to add up to 15 or 16. There are 5 of them, so it's either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. That's forced. So there's no 9 in this sequence. There's no 9 in that sequence because of Sudoku. So 9 goes here, and that puts 1 in the corner using the X thing. And that 1 knocks that out and makes it makes it a 2. See, I'm pressing 2 there, and no 2 is going in because my keyboard is, the solder's melted or something. So now we know there's a 2 down here, which is going to have to be a 2, 7, isn't it? So it's either 2, 7. It's not. Well, this, look at this. Where does the 2 go? This is 2. I know this line had 2 on it, so it's in these two. So there's a 2 down here by Sudoku. If I put 2 there, that's a 7, and it clashes with the 7, 8 pair. That doesn't work, so the 2 must go here. And we know that those 2 digits add up to 9, so there's a 2, 7 pair. But let's come back here. Because this digit became a 2, we now know this has to be an 8, because the minimum this can be is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 quintuple, which is now what it has to be, because if this was, this can be a maximum of 8 to give 17, and the minimum we can make these add up to now is 17, and that's with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the row. So that is 8, this is 7, that means this is 1, 2, 3, and this is 1. So A is 1, that's 2, that's 3. So 2 is not, oh, so this has to be 3 and 5, adding up to 8. And therefore, what do we get here? We get 1, 2, so that's 7 plus 2, which does add up to the right number. Okay, so let's tidy up our pencil marks and think about what this means. I don't know yet, but these squares are 6, 7, and 8 by Sudoku. And, okay, so that one, right, yeah, look at this. So this number is equal to this number, which is a very high number, plus that number. So this has to be a 1, because it can't be a 2, and it certainly can't be a 3, because 3 plus 6 is 9, so that's a 1. That means that this is not 8, and this is not 6. I don't know what that means. I thought, oh look, here's something simple. 1, 2, 3, looking at these two squares, so the minimum these are is a 4, 5 pair, and they can't be more than that because this square can't be more than 9, so this is a 4, 5 pair. Yeah, I have to say, this is one of, I mean, we are on a purple patch at the moment, but this is one of my favourite puzzles of recent weeks as well. It's just brilliant. It's so beautiful. That can't possibly be a 9. That can't be an 8, because 8 plus 1 would be forced, and that can't, in order to keep this down to a single digit total. In fact, that is at least a 3, isn't it? So how could this be? This is 3 plus 6 equals 9. It's the only thing it can be. 3, 6, 9. That's now a 7. So this is an 8. That's a 6. Good grief. The other thing that's so lovely about this is how smooth it is, isn't it? It's, now we're on the sort of the Sudoku-y part of it. It's still being incredibly... the deductions are sort of coming relatively quickly. And they're all lovely. Right, 9 in row 4 is forced by Sudoku. That 7 is going to do the rest of this. So that's 8, that's 7. That's not 1. 9 is there in box 4. How many 9s have we got? Lots, I think. We've only got 2 9s to do. Right, so there's a 9 in one of those. And then, oh, 9 in one of those. Okay, that's not going to do it, is it? Not there. This is 4, 5, 6 in some order. Let's put that in case something occurs to me. The 3 is doing the 3 and the 5 in box 1. So that's not 5. Okay, so is that doing something then? What have we got down here? We've got 4, 6... It's 4, 5, and 6 again, isn't it? Ah, okay, here's something I can see from that. There may be easier ways to see this, but obviously one of these is from 4 or 5. They can't both be 6. But the 4 5s are going to go together on this line. So one of these is 6, which means one of these is 3, and that one can't be 3, so that must... Oh! So, That's 3 in the corner, and G in the corner. That's 3 and G in the corner. Spotlight losing or proving their positions. That's got to be 6. That's got to be a 4-5 pair. And actually, that's done, isn't it? So that's 5. That's 4. That's 6. Okay, so what does that mean? 3, 4, 5. We need to put... why can't I see that? 6, isn't it, there? That's going to be a 4. That's going to be a 7. Good grief. Okay, so now we've got to put 5, 7, and 8. So that's a naked single. This is a 7, 8 pair. This is a 2, 4 pair. And these squares are 3, 5, and 6 in some order. 3, 5, and 6. This domino looks interesting now. We know it adds up to 9. It's not 3, 6, or 2, 7, or 4, 5, because this square can't be 4 or 5. So it is 1, 8. But the order is not revealed, I don't think. So 2, 4, 5 into the column. This is 2, 4, or 5. That's the sum of 2 digits. So it's definitely not 2. They're now... Oh, I was going to say there has to be a 1 on this line. That might be wrong. Well, it's not 4, because you can't put 1, 3 into here because of the 3 in the corner. So that's got to be a 5. And this is not 2, 3, so this is 1, 4, and we know the order again. 1, 4, 2, 4, 2. This is a 1, 8 pair to complete that box. What about the bottom row then? Should we try 5, 7, and 9? Yeah, we'll put 9 in the corner then. So that becomes 9. This is a 5, 7 pair. Ah, no! 5, 7 pair. That's not a 1. So that seems to have to be the 1 in box number 2 there. Okay, so how do we finish this off? We could say that... Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. Let's think. Is it going to be... I don't know. Oh dear. That's at least a 2, 3 pair because it can't have a 1 on it. So this digit is at least equal to 5. And it's not 6, that's 5, 7, or 8. I don't think that's going to be quite good enough. Oh, no, it's not bad actually. So that's a 5, 7, 8 triple in the column, which means that's not 5. So what is it we've got left to place then? If we've got a 5, 7, 8 triple, we've got to put 2, 3, 4, and 6. Okay, let's just put those in and see if that tells us anything. Well, that's not 4. I don't think it's good enough, is it? Is it this line somehow? No, what we really need to do is... Oh, look, I can do some more sudoku. Okay, maybe sudoku helps me. It does get rid of 4 here. That 4 does do some more. 4 and 2. Is that doing it? 4, yeah, here's something. Where's 4 in this box? I might be... It's there, it's placed. Okay, alright. So this is higher than 4, and it's not 5, because that can't be 1. So that is 6 or 8 only. Which means this is even. And it's 2, I think. I can't put, if I put 8 there, in fact I can't put 8 there, because that would be a double 4. So that's 6, that's 2. That should do something. What's that done? This square is now 3. So this isn't 3. That's 6 at the top, so that's become a 2. Right, that must do it, does it? So this square is either 3, 5, or 6. And apparently none of those are ruled out. That's peculiar. That square is an 8 by Sudoku. And we need to place 3, 5, and 7. Okay, so that's the 7. in this column, which means that takes 7 out of here, which takes 5 out of here. And that's 3 or 5. So it's 3, 5, 6, 8. So this is 3, 5 or 8. And therefore 6 in this box. I see, yeah, it's obvious. 6 has to go there, and that fixes this little line with an 8, which gets us the 8. Oh, whoopsie. 8 and the 7 can go in. That means the 7 and the 5 can go in at the bottom. And, okay, it's not quite done, because we look like we're left with a 3-5 pair here, which doesn't look like it wants to resolve itself. That 8, though, is doing some work. So that's 1, that's 8. That's 2, that's 7. That's 7 by sudoku. We need 3, 6 and 8. So 8 goes here. This is 3, this is 6. We need 1 and 4 here, which is resolved now. And we need 2 and 3 here. That's resolved as well. And that's going to do the middle. Ah, good grief. Good grief. That is such a clever puzzle. That is such a brilliant puzzle. Oh my goodness me. Knickolas, Babbling Brook. That was wonderful. Start to finish. That's one of my favourite puzzles of recent times. I am astonished that that rule set with a G in the corner yields like such a massive deduction that these are the same colour and they're interrupted by a different colour there. I mean, it's just bizarre. It's bizarre you can work out N for a start because you have to avoid 2 by 2s in those areas. And then that yields this incredible deduction around the edge. And then even after that, there's loads of little rinky-dinks that are just really, you know, the fact you had to have a yellow along this line and what was its nature was beautiful. Oh yeah, that thing here, where you couldn't have those digits being both yellow was beautiful. I mean, it's just, that is world class again. Phenomenal. Great art. What was it I was reading last night? I'm reading I think it's called Oathbringer by Sanderson. And the epilogue contains some words by a character called Wit about great art. And well, I don't know why I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it because this is great art. But I think the point of that, I was reading it in bed, so I was about to go to sleep, but it was quite profound. It was basically saying that great art has to inspire hate as a sort of precondition to its being great art. I'll find it. I'll try and read it in the outro if I can find it. But I was thinking, how could this possibly inspire hate? And yet it is great art. So maybe Brandon was wrong. Anyway, that's enough for me wibbling on. Thank you for watching. We'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic. All great art is hated. It is obscenely difficult, if not impossible, to make something that nobody hates. Conversely, it is incredibly easy, if not expected, to make something that nobody loves. This makes sense if you think about it. Art is about emotion, examination, and going places people have never gone before to discover and investigate new things. The only way to create something that nobody hates is to ensure that it can't be loved either. Remove enough spice from soup and you'll just end up with water. Human taste is as varied as human fingerprints. Nobody will like everything. Everybody disliked something. Someone loves that thing you hate, but at least being hated is better than nothing. To risk metaphor, a grand painting is often about contrast. Brightest brights, darkest darks, not grey mush. That a thing is hated is not proof that it's great art, but the lack of hatred is certainly proof that it is not. The question becomes, how many people need to love a piece of art to make it worthwhile? If you're inevitably going to inspire hate, then how much enjoyment is needed to balance out the risk?